All right. What's up? All right, you fucks. Um, yeah, so sorry this is late. I just totally forgot about yesterday. I remembered about in the afternoon, and then I was like, yeah, forget it. I'll just do it tomorrow. So that's now. Let's see. We're doing episode 7 today, 307. After this, there's only 3 more episodes left. Pretty cool. I mean, we're almost done, huh? Pretty weird. Um, it only took a year to make it. Now it's just a couple of weeks. Okay, so yeah, we had Darcy Carden on this episode. She was really good. We didn't think we could get her, but we managed to. It was amazing. Um, yeah, she'd never played before, as far as I understand, and she was really great. She had a lot of energy. She was doing stuff. I was really excited with how the episode came out. So yeah, let's just do it. Got some Coke, the soda. It's making me kind of burpy. Um, yeah, that's a bit more centered, huh? Anyway, let's crack into it. How do I do this again? Boop, 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 boop. Oh no, it broke. All right, that's not the real thing then. We gotta stop it. All right, come on. I wonder if there's gonna be buffering issues this time around. Okay, what did I say last time? Boop, 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 boop. There we go. Oh boy. Somebody's got a case of the Mondays, you know? So this is maybe one of the more important recaps that we cut because it's supposed to help you connect all the dots that finally get connected this episode. So yeah, this season was supposed to be kind of like based on time travel. My vaguest idea is I thought it would be cool if it was kind of like Back to the Future 2 or whatever, where it's like a kind of revisit of the stuff you already saw, but then it kind of like there's Easter eggs and the connections. That kind of fell away, but that was more or less the idea behind it. Um, but yeah, so this is kind of where we really see the I don't know, the full loop of the time travel kind of thing happening. I mean, more happens, but this is kind of like, I don't know. I'll get into it a bit more in a little. It's weird because you're supposed to have watched the episode before you watch these, but at the same time, I don't want to like spoil things that happen in the episode necessarily, just in case. Kind of going opposite directions there. So apparently, we had some extra time for our artists, so they started trying to reanimate the intro sequence here to have my new character model who has like a smaller beard, I think. Or no, it's just he's skinny. He has like a skinnier beard, but we didn't put it in the show, and it'll just be in next season. But next season I'll have a way smaller beard, presumably, if we get another season. So it won't really matter. We'll need to do another one. Hey guys. I don't know what she says there. I found out that she said, like, it's a secret, don't tell anybody. But I think that's something even after that. The Good Place, final season, premiering soon as of time of recording. I get that a lot. That's some classic intro banter is, I don't know what I'm doing. Neither does anyone else. It'll be fine. It'll be great. That's kind of like what a lot of the intros are. Oh, yeah, this episode leaked, huh? I want to say around episode 3. Episode 7 just came out on VRV. It was nuts. We had to get it unlisted or whatever. I was wondering if people had secretly downloaded it or what have you. So yeah, they're going back to Ivory Key. That's kind of like when I was thinking of the time travel aspect of everything. It was like we see Goblopolis, we go back in time, we see Goblopolis and it's better. Then it gets worse. Then you know, we see Ivory Key in the past. Then we go back in the in the past, and then we see it again, and now it's worse. It's like, what has time travel done? Uncle Dilbert. That tie should have been like the curly Dilbert tie. Like Dilbert wears. The Goblin Army is kind of a remnant from... I mean, obviously the Ivory Key stuff is playing into Erin's character and giving her kind of stuff to play off of from her backstory and stuff. And the Goblin Army is kind of with Jeff's backstory, kind of that kind of idea there is like Goblopolis is, he's trying to save the goblins, and then he becomes like a hero of the goblins or whatever. It didn't really go anywhere, but I thought it was like a fun theme to explore. And also it just gave the other characters more to do. Like, the prior seasons had focused mostly on kind of Dan and what he's doing. So that's Darcy. Yeah, you might have remembered. She was in the tavern. She didn't say anything, but she was in episode 6, visibly. She was part of that gang of adventurers. When this episode leaked, I was like, oh no, it's going to ruin, well, multiple kind of secrets or whatever. But one of them was that we show Darcy's character in episode 6. And I was like, oh, they're going to know that she was from episode 7 and episode 6. That's one of them. Before taping our live production guy, I can't remember his exact title, but he went up on stage. It was like, hey Erin, just so you know, your bra's visible. I just don't want you to be surprised by anything. And she was like, that's fine. And so, but he said it in a way, it wasn't intentional, but I think the mics picked him up, so then the whole audience could hear the conversation. It was so weird. It had the effect of potentially wardrobe shaming a girl live in front of an audience. Well, a woman, whatever. But yeah. I don't know how much we changed it, but I always thought that Darcy's mouth is this in the character is a bit too big. It looks like too, I don't know, crazy compared to the other mouths. We might have shrank it a little bit, but I don't think we did. I think we tried and failed. But whatever. It's all good. I was worried sometimes that the characters are too caricature-y. Like, it could be potentially insulting to the talent. The talent doesn't see the cartoon characters before the show comes out. They usually find out. I don't know that it's not like they watch the show, I assume. I'm not sure. She had like 2 singing moments, and this was one of them. but we might have cut a part of this into another one. Like, we didn't use one of them, but we might have cut a piece of that into that dance number to kind of like use the best half of both parts. So that might be two dance numbers, but I can't remember. Jeff knows their goal. I think narratively, the idea of using time travel to solve a problem that was caused in part by time travel, and time travel made everything worse, but they're still going to use time travel to solve the problem again. I feel like that's a bit narratively weak or something, but, you know, whatever. I guess they could have tried something else, but once time travel is introduced, it's not like, what do you do that's better than time travel to solve the time travel problems, you know? So yeah, obviously she's a bard. Bards are cool. Her character doesn't look very bardic, I suppose. She kind of looks like a traveling elf queen, I guess. And she's the size of a dwarf, even though she's like an elf. I think she's an elf or a half elf. I don't know. The continuity of the player character races in this series doesn't really track very well. Like, Kate Micucci was an elf too, but they just like basically had her just be a gnome. That guy who falls off, that we never really nailed that animation. It just looks a bit funky. Jeff's face. It makes sense. Doesn't feel good though. So yeah, there's supposed to have been hints to like the reveal at the end of this episode, and I feel like they're seated okay. I don't know. They're not super strong or super weak. I'd rather it be not obvious than too obvious, though. I always dislike when that happens. When it's like you see the surprise coming from a mile away. I feel like that happens in video games a lot because things have to be so telegraphed and told multiple times. So here's like this is like a D&D fail that she uses the spell Shatter, but she doesn't lose her invisibility. Probably should have just made her visible again. Oh hey, that sound effect was pretty good. Sift is a really cool spell. I think it's called something else, but I can't remember. I changed a lot of the names to the spells to make them more flavorful and stuff. She looks crazy when she's like laughing like that. It's so good. They put like a roar in for that goblin yelling, but that was just supposed to be him saying like charge or something. That guy's humping the wall. In the actual show, the gang acquired the donkey from last episode, from episode 6, and they took him and they sent him as a distraction, like at the wall, but then there was demons on the wall. I don't think we really saw the demons in the actual show itself because we cut it out of the narration. But in addition to there being all these fucked up barbarians, there's also just straight up demons in the barbarian encampment now. And so they sent the donkey, who they named after Bill the prop guy. They called him Bill the prop donkey. And they sent him as a distraction, and the demons just destroyed the donkey, and it bummed everyone out. It was pretty funny. And yeah, I don't know. You could probably see that the barbarians look different. They have like dark eyes and like Frankenstein patches of skin and stuff. And the idea is like, in the new timeline, they're doing all sorts of weird fucked up demon stuff to make the barbarians stronger. To kind of underscore their corruption and stuff. I think technically, yeah, so we cut this, we changed this because Dan used to be in outline, but we were like, well, we should do a POV from the barbarian guy and show him not visible to kind of imply, their point of view. Anyway, I was saying that I think Dan cutting that guy. Aaron says Tile because that guy's name was Tile. It got cut, though, him talking about their names. Anyway, I think Dan cutting the cord technically would count as an attack, which would also make him not invisible. But that seems bullshit, right? Like the idea that cutting someone's bonds while you're invisible makes you not invisible. That seems like bullshit. There's also a little continuity fail, kind of, where the barbarians who are tied up, they're tied up above spikes, and then the barbarian is cutting them down, and then they're not like getting impaled on the spikes. That's kind of weird. Everyone has basically perfect eye lines to all the invisible characters. Like they know right where they're supposed to be. Big battles are kind of expensive to animate, so there's not a lot of that. But like hypothetically, what's happening is all the barbarians are fighting a pitched battle with all these goblins and stuff. Mostly just slaughtering the goblins. Grease is also technically a spell, but we just did it like she just had physical grease. It probably would have been good to have the Barbarian Chief be a character in episode 3. Like maybe he was more on their side. And then they come back and now he's like, he fights them. Also, the idea is, it's not super clear, but he's supposed to be blind. And so like he can't tell that they're invisible. He just recognized their voices. That doesn't come through very clearly either. That's obviously a reference to a meme called Super Hot Fire or something. Super Hot Fire. I don't know. But that was my idea. Green gem. We saw that in episode 3. It was shaped differently, though. I think it was bigger in episode 3. Most of the gems are bigger than they used to be. Dan's voice, the thank you, is so fucking funny. He's like trying to do a cool thing. Aaron basically never uses the Bloodlines burden, when we were cutting the episodes, we actually cut when she found the bloodlines burden out because it doesn't really go anywhere. But the network wanted it back in, which I think was cool. It just would have been nice if she actually used it more. Maybe we should have animated her using it even if she didn't. But she usually calls out what weapon she uses, so. That's supposed to be like the Snoopy dance, like he does on the top of his doghouse. That's also my idea. Her scale looks off there, huh? Maybe it's not. That's just a great shot. Both of these shots are great. So in this episode, I think in the season too, there's not even really like a bag of nets. There's just a net, which I don't know. I think a net is harder to buy than like a magical bag of nets that's designed to entangle stuff. Certainly less cool. Man, that's a phallic axe handle, huh? I never really clocked that before. These are all just made up by, I think, Dominic and maybe some of the storyboard animators. I thought this was really fun, though. It's just so dead. So like in episode 3, the gemstone kind of could heal, had the power of healing, and also brought like essentially kind of bones back to life into bone monsters. And now it's like healing him, keeping him alive. That punch was also my idea. So yeah, that's the big reveal. Super complicated. Obviously, the gang doesn't really look into what do you call it? Into the plot and the clues and stuff. But you saw the gems. The gems were the thing that Vorthion used. The blood barbarians in the Ivory Key, that they were supposed to have costumes that were based on the cultist costumes from season 1. Obviously, you see Synax in episode 6. He's the guy who's attached to the red gemstone. So that's supposed to kind of have been hinting at this is all Vorthion's machinations and stuff. I don't want to get into the whole plot because I think there's one spoiler. But yeah, the gray guy's back. It's supposed to be like this. If this was actually a battle, it would be pretty crazy because there'd be the gray guy, Vorthion, the barbarian chief, all beating the shit out of our heroes. Anyway, Vorthion's plan was he wanted to use the Beast of Beginning to remake the world in his image, and somehow when the gang used their Beast of the Beginning, he took that opportunity as a way to like gain influence over the barbarian village more than he already did, because he did have influence in the village early on. That's why the blood priests were around in the first place in episode 3. But like when they went back in time, he had an even stronger grip on the place, and that's why it's all fucked up looking in this episode and it's all evil, because he's basically been using like Rasputin-like influence on the barbarians, and he's doing that because he wants to use the Beast of Beginning, but he doesn't know how to make it work. That's why he's like, show me how to make it work or I'll kill you. He can influence it, but he can't activate it himself. Presumably because he doesn't yet have the blessing of the druids from episode 2. But yeah, he's resorted to other means, or is resorted to other means. This was so... Aaron I think, Darcy wanted Aaron to kind of do this, but Dan jumped in there. So the blink, she has like an uneven blink. Her mouth pack is all fucked up because it's like. I just love that that it just disappears. Oh man, yeah, that BR head is so good. That was not my idea. Who or what was that gray mask figure? How did he go back in time? I guess he'd already been back in time. Just all the goblins are dead. Our heroes just disappeared, and the goblin army was just, effectively routed, probably. Maybe all of them died. Who knows? But yeah. And the gang's gone. Who knows where they could be? We'll find out next episode. Darcy was so great, though. We had to cut a lot of good stuff out, too, just because it didn't move anywhere. I don't know. Maybe we should make these episodes longer. Anytime the episodes are long, you kind of just feel like you should cut them down just to get them down to time. They kind of feel a bit sluggish, but, compared to other content in this space, it could stand to be longer, even if it was 10 minutes longer. The problem is you wouldn't be able to animate that because we don't have the money to animate it all. But, I don't know. Something to think about. You never know. Harmonquest. Harmonquest. Quest. Harmonquest. Harmonquest. Okay, so that's that episode. Yeah, so tried to talk a little bit about the plot, what's going on. Vorthion's machinations. He's trying to he's trying to get the beast at the beginning. He probably wants to go back in time and reshape it in his image, or go to the very beginning and set himself up as like a god emperor over the universe or something. We set up early. I don't think it ever got. I don't even know if it made it in the recordings, but the premise. No, I think. Yeah, no, I don't know. I think we give basic reference to it in episode 2, but the idea was the beast at the beginning was hidden in the demon realm, where no one could see it because it could only be seen by like good people and people with hope and pure intentions, and demons necessarily don't contain hope or positivity. So without that, the ability to comprehend that, they just don't see it. And Vorthion, I could go back on this because it's never been set in stone by the show, but the idea is Vorthion's supposed to be like a demonic entity. Vorthion obviously was based on Admiral Darkstar from Harmonquest, or Harmontown, and Admiral Darkstar was also a demonic entity in a human form, like a dark armored kind of Darth Vader-y form, but he's not traditionally human. I mean, maybe he used to be a human and he sold his soul, but yeah. Another thing that hasn't also made it into the show is that the binding runestones, which were the gems we saw this season, they were from season 1, obviously. The binding runestones are the hearts, the crystallized bound hearts of demons, like powerful demon lords. So some hero or some adventurer went and slayed all the demons, but to prevent them from coming back or remanifesting, which I think most demons, like when they die, they just kind of are reborn in the demon realm or whatever in D&D mythology generally, I think. But to like stop the cycle, he sealed them into crystalline forms. He sealed their hearts, so they were bound eternally, and then there's such potent magical artifacts that they could be used to boost magical rituals and do all this stuff. And so then the druids use those hearts to bind the demon seal, which was a hole between the demon realm and earth. And so to stop like demons from spilling out into the material plane, they bound the demon seal in Earthscar Village. And then they, presumably scattered the binding runestones so that it would be hard to collect. In season 2, that was actually one of the ideas I had for what would happen is they'd go to hell and the demon seals, or the demon, Jesus Christ, too many MacGuffins. The binding runestones kind of would reform into their original demon forms after being bathed in the demonic energy of the demon realm. and then they'd be demon lords who the gang would have to defeat. But having to spend that many episodes like defeating kind of mini bosses kind of made it seem like it would take too much time. They'd have to spend too much time in hell, and I didn't want that for the second season. It would just be, if we did that, it would just be a whole season of being in hell, and that seemed a bit too one note, I guess. So yeah. Also in this season, that was supposed to be kind of a sub theme, was that the stones would actually turn into more of a demonic form and be fought and defeated. In episode 3, there wasn't really time for that to happen. In episode 4, that did happen, except when we actually animated it, we kept them gemstones. We didn't actually, in the tapings, it actually got limbs, I want to say, and maybe even a mouth, and so it turned into like a proper creature. But when we were animating it, we thought we cut that narration line out, and then it seemed pretty cool to just have like this, strange stone that's shooting like a tank, essentially. Whoops. And so, yeah, so it didn't turn into a monster. And then in 4, that's kind of the close, or 6, that's the closest we got to them actually having to kill the stone to win the day. But, then, like I said, that plot line kind of fell away and it became a bit different. I could probably stop this, right? Bleep. But yeah, so, I mean, there's maybe still time. We could still do that. Who knows? But that's kind of an idea that's been simmering and kicking around in my head. So this season was kind of a bit behind the scenes there. And so in the pre-time jump, the stones were supposed to be smaller. And then in the post-time jump, they're supposed to be way bigger, because things are so much more hellish and worse that they absorbed a lot more demon energy than they did the first go around. And also, I think, yeah, I don't know exactly how the timeline works, but I think by the time in the first episode that the gang gets to the Puppet King, he doesn't have the blue stone anymore, just because Vorthion probably took it back or something by that point. Or, I don't know, maybe it left. But in episode 4, he has it, because that's presumably how he first took over the Goblopolis, was with this giant siege weapon. It was also before he had his goblin army, which is like the largest army he's ever had. He kind of had a small invading force when he came for Goblopolis. That was kind of where he started. He was like, well, first I want this big goblin army, and then from then I'll start conquering the world with my goblin army. And so when the game finds him, he's been subjugating all sorts of places, but his main fortress was in Goblopolis. What else? Yeah, I don't know. Time travel, it's hard. There's some time travel problems in my thing. I think I avoided a lot of them, but then there's other ones. I have to really think about that. I spent a lot of time trying to avoid, basically, I don't know. Most time travel stories have pretty obvious gaping holes in them, and you just kind of forgive them or write them out or, explain them away somehow. But I tried pretty hard to not have those. Like I said, I'm sure there are, but the timeline is supposed to work out somehow. Like when they went back in episode 4, that was supposed to be around the time of episode 6 or 7, maybe 8 in season 2. So it's like they got back from hell with Bone Weevil, and then that's kind of the timeline that Fondue was plucked out of. He was kind of like but since the Beast of Beginning kind of rewrites time, they kind of plucked him out of that timeline and dragged him maybe a bit backwards or changed reality, so he didn't necessarily remember all that. But that's just kind of based on his character not remembering what happened. Yeah. Anyway, I could say a lot of dumb stuff. I probably sound pretty dumb, but whatever. All right. Thanks for watching. Episode 8 is coming up next. We got Just McKenna. It's a fun episode. This next one's a pretty, let's say, unique one. I feel like it'll be a divisive issue, or a divisive episode. I feel like a lot of the diehard fans will think it's stupid. I thought it would be fun to do as just an experiment, but we'll see. All right. Well, thanks for watching, like and subscribe, etc. Bye.